Welcome back to Poolside Games. As you may know, Sonic Frontiers is the newest Sonic game to come out. It just came out not too long ago, so you can pick that up if you want. I haven't had a chance to play it quite yet. I am looking forward to it, but I thought now would be a good time to go over my current Sonic collection. So my Sonic collection is not like a complete collection. I certainly do not have every Sonic game. So there's some I played that I don't own, and for different reasons. And I know there's some probably really great ones that I don't own. I have played more than I own. I do have a decent collection of Sonic games. Some, a lot of the older ones, some of the newer ones. And so we're going to go through my collection today, and I'll let you know what I think. So we're going to start right off, of course, with the original game, Sonic the Hedgehog.
So what can you say about Sonic the Hedgehog? I mean, it is the first ever Sonic the Hedgehog game on any system. So this was the first one. That means like Master System and Game Gear and stuff came out after this. This was the original one. And this was the first time that Sega kind of had a mascot that was a big enough deal to go up against Mario. And this game was amazing when it came out. The colors, how fast it moved. It was also kind of different because you moved left and right through the levels. And, Mario had more of a linear feel to it. But there was so much going on with Sonic the Hedgehog. I was a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. The music, the way in which it played. If you haven't played it, you go through, you collect rings. The rings count as points, but that's also your health. So if you get hit, you lose the rings. You got to try to grab some more back. As long as you have one ring and you get hit, you will lose the ring. So you only die if you have no rings and get hit. So there we go. That's the first level of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay, so the next game in my collection is Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
So, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, what can you say about it? It was just like so much more than the first one. Like the first one was awesome, then they came out with 2 and they just added a lot. It was so great playing through. One thing you can see, you have Tails with you. Tails was introduced in this one. Tails could actually be controlled by the second player, so you could play with both controllers and have the second person controlling Tails, who got left behind a lot, but it was interesting. It was really cool at the time that you could play a Sonic game and have 2 people playing. Also, this is the game where they added the dash feature, which is where you duck down and can make yourself shoot forward really fast, which was going back to the first game after getting used to playing with that is really tough because it becomes something you get so used to using. But yeah, so this is probably my favorite Sonic the Hedgehog game. It's definitely my favorite on the Genesis, and it might be just my favorite overall. This is a great game. In fact, if I had to pick like 100 great games that you should play, this game would be on it. And yeah, so it's excellent. If you haven't had a chance to play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, give it a try.
Okay, so moving on, of course, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Okay, so 3 starts off where you can pick between Sonic, Tails, or Sonic and Tails, which they did this in 2 as well. I didn't show you, but so I wanted to show you the opening of 3, which is, it starts off right where 2 leaves off. But later, you'll see this opening basically the same thing again. And here's Knuckles. This is the first time you see Knuckles. And here you go. Now, I liked Sonic 3. I didn't like it quite as well as I liked 2. But it was still a lot of fun. And I think 3 has my favorite of the bonus stages. And there's one coming up, so I'll show you that. Because it was a really cool way of doing the bonus stage. There's one right back here. But yeah, so here's the bonus stage for 3. You just run on like a giant globe collecting these spheres, and it just goes faster and faster as you're going. and you just have to keep running through and trying to collect them. But I thought it was a really cool bonus area. I liked it far more than the first and second one were okay. I thought this one was better. And so Sonic 3 was a lot of fun. It was where they first introduced Knuckles. It still is very much like Sonic. Yeah, it's a good game. Again, just didn't like it as much as 2, but absolutely worth checking out and great bonus stages.
Then the fourth game is going to be Sonic and Knuckles. So, there was something different about Sonic and Knuckles. It offered lock-on technology. Okay, so here is the Sonic and Knuckles game. And you can see it opens up, and you could plug in another game into the game. So you could have Sonic, Sonic 3, Sonic 2, plug it in, and then it allowed you to play as Knuckles in any of those games. So that was like this big thing, because you could go back through to your old Sonic games and like replay them as a new character. So that was a big thing, and I don't know how many times they did this. This is the only game I know about to have the lock-on thing. Yeah, so if you know of another one, let me know. I thought it was pretty cool, especially for the time. And that was one of the big things with Sonic and Knuckles, because Sonic and Knuckles felt more like an add-on, or it was more of 3. Like, they had kept changing a little bit. But Sonic and Knuckles was just like Sonic 3 in gameplay and everything.
So here we are with Sonic and Knuckles, and you can see just the feel of the game. It felt very much like 3, to me at least. The way it looks, the aesthetic of the game. The big thing beyond the lock-on technology was that in this one you play as Knuckles, so you're not just, it's been Sonic and then Sonic and Tails, and in this one, now they're adding a new playable character, which was Knuckles. And then, okay, so here is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 plugged in through the lock-on, and you can see it comes up Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but it has Knuckles now, and it starts off just the same, but you are playing as Knuckles. So it's the same game, you just now, and they added the ability to play as Knuckles into the game. So that was the cool thing. So I just kind of wanted to show you, this is the Sonic 2 cartridge plugged into the lock-on cartridge of Sonic and Knuckles.
Okay, so the next game is going to be Sonic Spinball, or Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball.
So, Sonic Spinball, what do you say? It's kind of like Sonic beats electric pinball. It's alright. It's fun. I mean, I had fun playing it, but it's not a great game, I'd say. If you really like Sonic, play it. If you really like pinball, electric pinball, give it a try. If you don't like either, probably don't play it. Also, don't play it expecting it to be like the greatest game ever. It is not. That being said, I still had fun with it and thought it was, worth checking out.
And the last game I have on the Genesis from Sonic is Sonic 3D Blast.
Okay, so here's Sonic 3D Blast, and it took some getting used to, to be able to run around in it. After taking some time to get used to it, I did find that I liked it more than I started with. It definitely seemed to take a little getting used to. You don't just pick it up and play like you can with the other earlier Sonic games. It's not great. I'm not saying it's great, but it wasn't bad. Once you got used to it, it actually turned out to be more fun than I thought I was going to have, because when I first started playing it, was like, ooh, this is rough. And, it turned out pretty good, actually. Once you get used to it, once you get used to the controls and how the game works, I had fun with it. So, yeah, give it a try. It's not the best Sonic game, but if you get past the initial trying to get used to how the game works and everything, I think it is worth giving it a shot. It is pretty fun.
So now we're going to move on to my Sonic Game Gear games. There were quite a few Game Gear games based on Sonic, and I have quite a few of them, not all of them, but we'll go through those real quick. So we'll start off with the first one again, Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic came out on the Genesis first. So the 16-bit was released first. And then right after it was the 8-bit version that was released on Game Gear and Master System. I never played any of this on Master System. So all of my games that were 8-bit are on the Game Gear.
So here it is. And as you can see, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. It's just 8-bit. It doesn't quite as polished or have quite the color palette that the 16-bit one does, but it still looks pretty good for what it is, and playing this on the Game Gear was a lot of fun. It is not an exact translation, so it is not simply the Genesis version watered down, so this is a different adventure, so it is worth playing, and yeah, it was Sonic on the Game Gear. Try it out.
Okay, so next up would be Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Okay, so before we get going talking about Sonic 2 on the Game Gear, I just want to say this game is everywhere. I think every secondhand game store I go to that carries any Game Gear stuff has a copy of this. One of them probably has 40 or 50 different Game Gear games, and they always have like 15 copies of this game. So yeah, it's everywhere. Okay, so this version of Sonic 2 was actually released before the Genesis version. And though you can see Tails in the opening, Tails is not a playable character. So again, yeah, a lot of fun playing this. I enjoyed it more than I liked the first one. I think this is a much better game. The sequel to this one, though, that's where I think they really started doing much better for the Game Gear. So
next is Sonic Chaos.
Okay, so as you can see in this one, you can select as Sonic or Tails. This is the first of the 8-bit games to where you could select Tails as a playable character. This is also the first game where it wasn't ported over. This is originally made and created, wholly just for the 8-bit system. So this was fun. I actually liked this game, but wished that some of the levels were pretty straightforward. That's the only thing about it, because I did like it, and I did like the way it looked, and the fact that it started feeling like they were doing really cool Sonic games just for the Game Gear. That wasn't just a follow-up, or a port, I mean.
Then we have Sonic Triple Trouble.
Okay, so here we go with Triple Trouble. Triple Trouble is a direct sequel to Sonic Chaos and is my favorite of the Sonic games for the Game Gear. Though I have liked several of the other games, this is the one that I was going to say, if you're going to play one Sonic game on the Game Gear, play Triple Trouble.
Okay, so the next one is a little different in the way it looked. It still is like a 2D platform game, but it looked a little different. And you would think with the name Sonic Blast that it would play like Sonic 3D Blast, but it does not. It does kind of have that rendered graphics look that 3D Blast had, but it has nothing to do with it. It's a completely different game. It's just a 2D side-scrolling game like the other ones.
Okay, so here's Sonic Blast, and yeah, it has nothing to do with Sonic 3D Blast. As you can see, it's not 3D, it's just a 2D side-scrolling adventure like the other ones. This was, I believe, the last Sonic game to be released on the Game Gear. And it's cool that they were trying to do something different with the graphics. I don't like the way this looks as much as I liked the last couple. And there's points where the game just feels slow, like it's just not moving as quick as the other ones. So definitely a weaker entry on the Game Gear.
Okay, so next we have Sonic Spinball on the Game Gear. So yeah, it's basically the same thing, just 8-bit rather than 16.
So yeah, not a whole lot to say on this one, just Sonic Spinball on the Game Gear. As you can see, it's a little different than the Genesis version, but yep, here it is.
Okay, so now we have a racing game. So the first Sonic racing game ever was Sonic Drift, and it only came out in Japan. But we did get the follow-up here in North America, which was Sonic Drift 2. So, yep, there we go.
Alright, so here you go. As you can see, it's a kart racing game. I think it came out because it was supposed to be competing with Mario Kart that had come out on the Super Nintendo. But here you are. It's a kart racing game with Sonic on the Game Gear. It's not too bad. I know some people are a really big fan of this game. I like it, but I don't love it. But it was fun.
Okay, so my last Game Gear game from Sonic is actually kind of a spin-off from the Sonic series, and that is Tails Adventure.
Okay, so Tails Adventure is very different than the other Sonic games. It is not just a Sonic game where you play as Tails. So in the game, you go through, you can hover with your tail, but rather than like spinning into things, you have bombs that you attack with. And you're looking for items in the game. So there's times where you have to find an item and then go back to earlier areas to use the item. So you're moving around. So it is more of an adventure game than an action game. Very good game though, if you have a chance to play it. It is different, like I said, it does play differently than Sonic, but it is a really fun game. I really enjoyed playing through it.
Okay, so moving on, the next game we're going to go over. We've gone over all the Genesis and Game Gear games. It is the only game that was Sonic for the Sega CD, which was Sonic CD.
So Sonic CD. Sonic CD had some standout features. I mean, it was Sega CD, so it did have CD quality sound and everything. Beyond that, the other big thing that this game had was it had a future past aspect of the game where you could go to the future or the past of different of the stages you're playing. So you'll see here, I'm going to zoom back and I'll go to the past of this stage. So here you go, and you can see now I am in the past. So that was a really cool thing on the game, was just being able to go through and go to, you know, different time, the time aspect of the game. It was a long game, there was a lot here, so a lot of fun. So if you have a chance to play Sega CD, I know they put out, the game's also available on a couple of collections. I think Sonic Gems collection, Sonic Origins, and the new Sonic Mini 2 that just came out that had Sega CD games. This is one of the games that was included on that system as well. So yeah, give it a try. Of course, I keep saying that. Maybe you should, according to me, just play all these games.
Okay, now we're going to jump ahead quite a bit. There are quite a few Sonic games that I played, but I don't own for several different reasons. So the next game that I own was actually the relaunch of Sonic the Hedgehog on the PS3, which is just Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay, so I guess let's start off with I am not a big fan of this game. I wanted to like it. I absolutely loved the opening of this game. It was really cool. By the time the opening's over, you're ready to just have a lot of fun. And you don't. It starts off, and you can see here, you're in a town, you're running around talking to people. And that was okay. It just took some getting used to. So yeah, I don't know. But then it gets into where you're actually playing the game, and we'll cut to that, and I'll show you a little bit of that, and you will see it just didn't control very well, and there were some aspects of the game that just where you couldn't figure out where you were supposed to go. It would tell you what to do, but you couldn't figure out what exactly you were supposed to do. So, yeah, in the end, I have tried playing this a couple of times, and I never get very far, just because I don't find myself engaged enough, or I get so frustrated with trying to play it that I just decide, nah, never mind. So, yeah, this is probably my least favorite of the Sonic games I have.
Okay, so Sonic the Hedgehog may not have been my favorite Sonic game, but the next one was great. So we kind of had a low note, real low note. It wasn't very good. But the next game, Sonic Generations, is actually a great game.
Okay, so in this game, you get to play as both Sonic and Classic Sonic. And you can see here, I'm going through as Sonic, and it is the 3D current kind of version of how Sonic is. But this game had a great sense of speed and controlled really well going through as new Sonic, and you can see that here. But then you also got to play as Classic Sonic, so you got to play Green Hill Zone 3D, and then here's Classic Sonic, and you get to play Green Hill Zone in more of the 2D aspect. So all the levels were done in a way where you were playing them 2D and 3D, and it worked out really well. Again, this is a Sonic game, and the sense of speed in this game is great. It does feel like you are moving super fast through some of these levels, but it never gets to where you feel like you are unable to control the characters. If you have a chance to play this game, I would highly recommend it. This is a great Sonic game, one of my favorites.
When you take damage, you'll drop all the rings you...
Okay, so now we're going to talk about another racing game. I have Sonic Drift 2, and this one is I want to say it correctly. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. But this game's awesome. This is a great racing game. If you have not had a chance to play this, absolutely play it.
Okay, so this is a great racing game. As you can tell from the title, All-Star Racing Transformed, you actually sometimes are driving like your cars, sometimes you have boats, and sometimes you have planes, and the levels while you're going through on the 3 tracks, the track will change. So sometimes you'll drive the entire first track, then the second time part of the track falls off and you end up actually turning into a boat. All of the tracks are based on other Sega properties. This game is just great. In fact, I was having so much fun replaying the game to get the footage here that I will probably go back and just do a review of this game coming up before too long, because there is so much to talk about with this game, but it is so fun. Absolutely play it.
Okay, so that is all the games for the PS3 that I have. Now on to my games that I have on the PS4. And we'll start with Sonic Forces.
So, Sonic Forces. Sonic Forces was a pretty fun game. And it starts off kind of like after Robotnik or Eggman takes over everything, and you're part of the resistance. And you start off, there's a character creation, you create a character, and so you sometimes play as the character you create, sometimes your other characters. And there's, like Sonic Generations, there's 2D and 3D aspects of this game. The story was kind of cool, but it's about everyone having to work together and defeat Robotnik. I actually liked this game. I thought it was pretty fun. So as some of the newer games weren't quite as good, I actually enjoyed this one.
Okay, so getting pretty close to the end of my list here. The next game we're going to talk about is Team Sonic Racing.
So Team Sonic Racing. I didn't like this game as much as I hoped. There were part of the time where I just didn't feel like it had a sense of speed that I would expect from a Sonic Racing game. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.
And then the last game, and this is an absolutely great game, is Sonic Mania.
Okay, so Sonic Mania. Okay, earlier on Sonic 3, I said that we would come back to the opening where you see the plane coming into land. So Sonic Mania starts off the same way, but you see Dr. Robotnik stealing one of the Chaos Emeralds. And then there's a big flash, and all of a sudden you're at Green Hill Zone, which is the first level from the first game. And it's similar, but not exactly. Like, they reworked the level. And you get to the end of that level, and there is Robotnik again, grabbing another Chaos Emerald, and you are warped to the chemical plant from the second level from Sonic 2. So what this game is it's a brand new adventure, but it's got like 9 levels, I think, that are reworked and remade levels from previous games, and then it has like 5 brand new levels that have never been out before. So, but this is such a great collection of levels, and you can see if you're used to Sonic 2 and what the chemical zone is like, this is the chemical zone, but it's not exactly the same. They've definitely made some changes, and it is really fun to go through and play this game and just go back to all these levels that you used, that you've liked and you had played before, but to see them reworked and to see them a little bit different. A lot of fun playing this game. A lot of fun. It is a great game. If you haven't had a chance to play it, many consider it to be the best Sonic game ever. I can see why. It is a return to just the classic 2D games, where some of the other ones, are changing, and there's the 3D stuff and everything. But I've liked some of the 3D games, and I like this game a lot. It is really great. If you have a chance to play it and you haven't, and you like Sonic, or you like the traditional Sonic games, you have to try this one. It is fantastic, and you can see from the footage here, it is just really fast. There is so much going on. It's a lot of fun to play, so give it a shot. Sonic Mania. And that is it. That is all of my Sonic games. So we're going to leave it here. And maybe I can do a follow-up video if I get more Sonic games. Yeah, so we'll see what happens in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and seen my collection. Let me know what you think below. And as always, thank you for watching.